Hi, all. Thanks so much for watching Speaking of Founders Mission. I'm Stephanie Fields, and today I am here with Matt Weinshank, who is the Director of Research, and John Robertson, who is the Education Specialist at Bocce. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So why don't we start by telling us what is Bocce? Because it is not the game we're talking about, it's investing. So tell us more, please.
Well, we hope to make it a game, but we'll see if we can get there. So Bocce is a solution to the problem of workers in America not being ready for retirement, right? So you see all the headlines about a retirement crisis. And I think if you line up the numbers, the median balance in a 401k is about the same as the median household income. So if you look at it, you've got 1 year of savings to fund 20 or 30 years of retirement. Which is a tough stretch, and the national retirement gap is about $3.7 trillion. And if you ask folks, do you feel like your retirement is on track? Only about 31% of them say yes. So we've only been talking about retirement for 20 seconds now, and it's already gotten very negative and stressful, right? And we don't want it to be that way. We want to make sure people know how to invest their 401ks. And, a good way to paraphrase it here is Ted Benna, who is the man who invented the 401k. He sort of set up the rules, has gone on to basically disavow them, say he's created a monster. And it's not because anything's wrong with the 401ks themselves, with the actual system, but it's because we hand people their own money back and say, here, now you have to invest this. And most people just haven't been taught the tools to do that. And that's okay, right? There's no reason to expect, an English teacher and a doctor and everybody to have this knowledge. But for some reason, that's the system we've set up. So Bocce's here to teach people how to manage their 401ks, right? You can call it financial literacy or retirement literacy. And we've turned it into a quick, fun program that's going to take the stress out of retirement planning and help people feel better about it. So Bocce is just one project of our firm. We're taking all our investment knowledge, putting into this, trying to make it clear for people so that when they say, okay, I've been making these contributions, where do I put the money? What are all these mutual funds? What's my asset allocation? We don't give them the exact answers to that. We give them the understanding so that they know how to ask the right questions and get to the right place.
What was the science and the methodology going into this? Because you've said that you do have industry experience. You guys have decades of experience doing this. So how did you decide, okay, here's what the world needs. This is how we have to solve this?
Okay, so I think there's two parts to what we're telling people. There's the financial information, and then there's turning information into education. So let me talk about the financial information for a minute. Like I said, we have a ton of experts. We're a full-fledged financial research firm. We love markets. We love communicating that to people. But the secret about retirement planning is that there is no secret, right? This is asset allocation. This is taking a few mutual funds, understanding how the assets they hold, how they work through history, how they work together, and putting it together in a simple, reasonable plan. It's not really that complicated. We're not coming out here saying we've got this crazy strategy to have you make more money. No, we're just trying to get you where an advisor would put you, and it's not that hard to understand those things. So we've put together all the lessons people need to sort of say, okay, I get it. I get why you use stocks. I get why you use bonds. I get why you use them together. And I feel like this is the right mix for me. So that's the information. But you can put information in front of people, and it's not always education. So that's what John's working on to make sure this sticks with people.
So the piece of the puzzle, of the side of the coin that Matt just addressed, we might call the domain expertise, and we have that in spades. I think most people can appreciate the idea that domain expertise, being an expertise in a topic, is necessary, but it's not always, and it's often not sufficient for successful learning. You can think back to your experience in a college lecture hall. The professor is undoubtedly an expert in their topic. They give a lecture for half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour and a half. You leave the lecture hall, and within a day or 2 days, you've forgotten everything. that they just told you. So bringing in or adding to the domain expertise some educational expertise or pedagogical expertise, bringing in what we know works and these evidence-based techniques, what we know works for education, for teaching, and for learning. And often these techniques are subtle. Some people might even think that they are simple, like quizzing, asking people questions. But these techniques are some of the most uncontroversial, powerful, proven, time tested strategies that lend to successful learning. So, this is the educational or the pedagogical expertise to the puzzle.
And there's two things that I think are unique about what you're doing. First of all, you're independent. So you are not part of any of the big 401k providers. You're not part of a big bank. So you have no ultimatum to get people to do a certain thing through the information that you're providing them. So the fact that you're independent and unbiased is certainly a standout feature. But additionally, you're super focused on the communication aspect of things. So while people need to take action on finance, you realize that communication and the way that people are receiving that is where part of the gap is, because you've said that people want this information from their employers. They want to take action on things, and they do, in a lot of cases, have resources that they could, but it's just too complicated. So tell us, how do you focus on simple communication and helping people learn this?
Right. So that's what happens, right? People go out and they say, okay, I've got to figure this out. And they start looking for answers. And one thing they find a lot is, right, motivated content. They find people who are selling them an investment product, which is that's their business. So that's okay. But what you're trying to filter out, get the honest information, get the real answers. And a lot of content is directing you towards a specific investment. Like you said, we are independent, unbiased. We manage no money. We don't want anyone's capital put into our mutual funds. We are not directing it to anything else. Our only goal is for folks to go to their employer and say, I'm so glad you got me this. I understand my 401k now, and then we'll keep delivering it to you. That's the extent of our business. Also out there, people find things, investing is personal. It depends on your situation. You want to figure it out. So when you read stuff, a lot of the times it's too general, right? They don't get deep enough. You walk away, you say, well, I don't really know what to do. A lot of it is a side project of a bank or some investment firm, and they're like, yeah, we'll put up an education thing, but it's not really their focus, and they haven't put the effort into it. Or the communication, like you said, as much as we focus on financial ideas and research, we are communicators. We work very hard on our writing. We work very hard on speaking clearly, plain English. We don't use words like pedagogical and things like that. We try to keep it very simple for people, and that's hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes many drafts, and it takes testing it with people and saying, "Do you understand this?" And they say yes or no, or "This is what confused me." So that's what we've been doing for 25 years. And that's why we think we can do, the books are out there, the websites are out there, all these things are out there, but clearly there's still a retirement crisis. So people aren't going to them. And we think we can do it the right way.
I would add to that, even if people are going to them, these content libraries, these so called educational resources, it's a very passive experience reading an article or watching a video. Learning is not an event, it is a process. And that's what users will be engaged in as they use bocces. They will be engaged in a process. They will be developing knowledge. They'll be learning about concepts. We ask them questions. They'll have to reflect on these concepts, think about how these concepts apply in their own lives, recall previously learned concepts. So building on knowledge and then pointing them in the direction to applying that knowledge. So pointing them to the other features and the tools within the product, like retirement calculators. There are retirement calculators out there, but you can imagine somebody, searching on the web, okay, retirement calculator, they punch in their data, it spits out an output like a 60/40 asset allocation, and they don't know what that means. They don't know what to do with that information. So active engagement, active learning, this is a really key piece. Short, digestible micro lessons, compelling users to kind of pull information out of memory, kind of wear down that path between within their memory of the for the information that we're introducing, and then applying that information. All critical for successful learning.
And one of the things that's interesting about how you do that is through the creation of an avatar. So the first thing that people do when they go on to Bocce is they create an avatar, but not just anybody, it's them, an older version of them, which is really cool. And then you've said that throughout the process, they're engaging with themselves, their future selves. So tell us, how do you keep people engaged through these really fun ways? Because it is a unique interactive experience. That's part of your secret sauce. So tell us how that works and how does that look?
Yeah, just to clarify, because this is a really fun point. Like, so you go and you make an avatar of yourself, and then on the next screen, it ages you, which doesn't sound that fun, but it is. It's funny to see yourself. It's got you
Mhm.
give them gray hair or
Mhm.
glasses and things like that, and then that's the person who's going to teach you your retirement because you're working for those, and it's kind of a fun gimmick, and gimmick's not a good word. It's a fun little a little spark that people enjoy, but it has deep implications for getting them to where we want them to go, where we think they want to go.
Yeah, nobody wants to let themselves down. The psychology of interacting with yourself or a future representation of yourself. This has been something that's been explored in universities and in research labs across different domains, looking at how people change their consumer behavior when they see a future representation of themselves. Um, but we're bringing this into how people change their financial behavior. A future representation of yourself that is optimistic, not just scary looking, is going to be motivating. And this is yourself. It's not some other person that is suggesting that this is important. This is you. You need this to do. You need to do this for yourself because you're the one who's going to benefit. So we just make that manifest in this future you avatar.
Yeah. All of a sudden, spending an hour or two a year getting your 401k set up or dialing up that contribution a little bit more, it's a little easier when you can really feel like you have to internalize this is for me. It's people are telling you better do this, but actually, I mean, it's for yourself. It's for your own. You're going to live a better life down the road if you can take care of these things. So we're just trying to really help people understand that and sort of feel it.
On the topic of motivation, I would just add that successful learning is
Mm,
itself motivating.
yeah.
Again, but something that I think probably resonates with most people is the feeling of learning a new thing, whether it's learning to ride a bike or learning a foreign language or learning to read a financial statement. There comes a point where it starts to make sense and that's exciting to you. Or you can take your knowledge and go out and apply it. And that itself is motivating. So again, getting back to these kind of evidence-based techniques that we've baked into the product, using successful learning to bootstrap motivation.
I think it's funny whenever you were talking about, motivating yourself by seeing your future self, it was kind of like watching Back to the Future, right? Like he
I
went
was
there,
I
he
was
saw
thinking
what
Back to the
happened.
Future too. Yep.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because you do go back and think, oh my gosh, how could things be different if I would have done this? So it's good for them to be able to see that in advance and realize
Mhm.
that you can take this and you are working with an entire group of people within employers. And so you're reaching people who are just starting this journey, but then also people who are maybe midway through this or even near the end. You said up until even 5 years before retirement, there's a tremendous benefit to using a bocce. So tell us, how do you fit that spectrum and personalize it to each person's journey?
So, well, there's a few things about personalization. One thing is our wealth path, which is what we call our sort of our central course, is personalized to people's knowledge level. So if you come in and we kind of assess you know what you're doing, we can skip some of the easy stuff. If you're starting at square one, we don't want to waste anyone's time with stuff they already know. So that helps keep them engaged and keep them moving. On the investment side, investing is personal. Everybody has different goals, different risk tolerances, and that's what makes it so hard to deliver sort of information to everybody sometimes. But for most people in a 401k, not super close to retirement, the goals are pretty much the same, right? They want to earn a good return. They don't want to take crazy risks. They want to sleep well at night, but they want to kind of match the market and make sure they're sort of not leaving any money on the table. So most of that is kind of the same answers for everyone. But the key thing is we teach them how to think about it. We don't just give them put 70% here, 30% here. We teach them how to think about it. We teach them why those are the numbers. And so as you get closer to retirement, I would say it gets more complicated, right? And you have to think about more things. And now you start to say, well, how am I going to plan out things? So at that point, though, if someone's been reading this, they can go talk to an expert or just start to really dig in, and they know the questions, and they're call it like a expert customer, right? They know what they need to be thinking about, and so they can get there. So teaching the understanding helps us apply it to everybody as opposed to just giving them an answer of which there isn't a single answer.
Yeah, I think the degree to which this bocce might be differently useful or differently attractive has more to do with the nature of the problem than the nature of bocce. The fact is that younger workers, the opportunity cost is especially high to get started early. In fact, that's one of the first really powerful central messages that we try and deliver. I think there's some research. I think younger generation X, generation Y, millennials, and Gen Z workers seem to be especially in demand for resources such as this kind of information, education about retirement planning. So I think we may be meeting younger users where they are for that reason. But again, bocce itself, I think, has a lot of value for all.
We're going to end with a fun question because it may not be apparent why you named this company Bocce and how it applies to finance. So why don't you explain that?
So it's very hard to name a product these days. A lot of things are taken. I will admit
It's all
that.
taken.
And we spent years building this, and we spent a couple of years in a few different names. John is actually the one who came up with the name. We were very happy to solve that. But Bocce is a game. It's fun. We want retirement to be fun. We want it to be engaging. It's also a game that is usually associated with retirees, right? Like it's like shuffleboard or something like that, where you say, "Oh, you go retire and go play bocce." But at least where I live, there's also like young people who play in bocce social leagues. So we thought that was fun. It's something that the young and old can do together. And the other thing is, it's a very simple game. It's simple rules. You throw the ball, you figure it out. But you could practice and you could work at it and you can get really good at it. So it's kind of a minute to master, a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. And I think that applies to investing too. So though all those things sort of have the right mood, we thought, for what we were trying to do. And it's a fun word to say.
Tying this back to the beginning of our conversation, as Matt mentioned, the world of finance is perceived, and I think for many reasons, rightly perceived as kind of a gated community. But bocce is for all. Bocce is for everybody. So through bocce, through the information that we provide, the lessons that we provide, we're building knowledge and ultimately, I think, agency that anybody can take into kind of break into that gated community and kind of seize opportunities for themselves.
And it's something also, like you said, you can learn it very quickly, but then take a lifetime to master. And like that, Bocce, the company, is something that people can initially, ramp up really quickly, make very beneficial changes, but then something that they would want to come back to on an ongoing basis to learn more and deepen that knowledge.
Absolutely. We have, like I said, we have something called the wealth path, which we think people can get in and they can really ramp up in there and they can get a lot of their questions answered. But we want them to keep coming back. We want them to be, when they have questions like what is an HSA, what's the 401k maximum, things like that. We have a library where all those things are contained so people can come to us instead of calling up HR with those questions. We have all these tools and calculators. We're constantly adding new lessons. And the other thing is, we really love finance. People don't want to know about the stock market sometimes, but we found it so intriguing. There's characters and stories and multifaceted faceted, like decision making, and they can really tell you a lot about the world. So we love these things, and so we are going to be keeping people up on the news of the market. We're going to be, delivering them updates, what's going on, what should you think about it, in a way that shares those stories and shares that passion. And there's going to be a few people, I think, that might really fall in love with stocks from reading this stuff. But for someone who's not going to read the Wall Street Journal, which is fine, we can be their place where they go and check in and they get just the right amount of interesting, clearly written, educational, financial news that they need. So we think that they'll keep coming back for a while.
Fantastic. I love it. Thank you guys for being here and for sharing all about Bocce. I really love this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for
You
the
too.
opportunity.
And thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.